Tess Vermani, Senior Vice President and Associate General Counsel here at the LSTA. This session, we're going to talk about pro rata provisions. Now, the provision itself is very simple and straightforward, but it's a critical one. A bedrock principle of syndicated lending is the fact that each lender in the syndicate will be treated on a strict ratable basis. And this is going to apply both to the lender's obligations to make loans as well as to each lender's right to receive payments. A lender's commitments, the amount of the loans that the lender holds, is what will determine its respective share. So in terms of making the loans, when a borrower makes a request for a loan, each lender in the syndicate is going to make its share of the loan based on the amount of the lender's commitments in that tranche. Also, as commitments are reduced or terminated over the life of the loan, each lender's commitments will be reduced or terminated on a ratable basis. Now, the LSTA's Complete Credit Agreement Guide has a very helpful section on pro rata provisions, which I encourage you to read. It also provides a sample of a provision. So let's turn to that now. So as we've discussed, we've looked at the lender's obligations to make a loan. Here in Romanet 1, each borrowing shall be made from the lenders, and each termination or reduction of the amount of the commitments shall be applied pro rata. Also, looking at Romanet 2, each borrowing shall be allocated pro rata among the lenders according to the amounts of their respective commitments or their respective loans that are to be included in such borrowing. So again, it's fairly straightforward, but this is a very important principle for how the lending syndicate works. Now let's look at a lender's right to receive payments, because this also will be on a ratable basis. So when we look at commitment fees or facility fees, each lender is going to receive its portion of those fees, looking here, on a ratable basis, based on the amount of that lender's commitments. Also, for principal payments and prepayments, as well as interest payments, those too are going to be paid based on the amount of the loan outstanding that the lender holds. If we look at the provision here, we see that each payment or prepayment of principal of loans shall be made for account of the lenders pro rata in accordance with the respective unpaid principal amounts of the loans held by them. Similarly, we see in Romanet 4, each payment of interest on the loans shall be made pro rata according to the amounts of interest on such loans then due and payable to the respective lenders. So this provision is really just a long way of saying that whatever part of the loan a lender owns, that is the amount that the lender will be responsible for, whether it's the commitment to fund in the future or to receive payments in return. Now, in practice, the administrative agent is the one who will be allocating these payments. And since the administrative agent also is the party that maintains the loan register, the agent knows exactly what each lender owns and exactly what each lender's pro rata share ought to be. Finally, I would just add one thought in conclusion. In the voting section of credit agreements, typically the special nature of pro rata provisions is recognized by having either unanimous lender consent or affected lender consent being required for any change to be made to that pro rata provision. Now, in recent years, there have been a couple examples where that hasn't been the case, and say the pro rata provisions may be able to be amended with only required lender consent, meaning more than 50% of of the lenders. It's important to pay careful attention to how this provision reads, because if that were the case, there is the potential that majority lenders could make a change to the credit agreement to the detriment of minority lenders. And again, one of the bedrock principles of syndicated lending is this pro rata treatment. So special care should be paid both by drafters and by those reading credit agreements to see how the pro rata provision together with the amendment provisions operate. In August 2017, the LSTA published an advisory taking a look at pro rata provisions and just urging market participants to be mindful of how these provisions are being drafted. And that advisory can be found on the LSTA's website under the primary market tab, Market Advisories.